Welcome! We are going to be coding in Python together. Python is a coding language. It is called a language because it allows us to communicate with the computer. There are lots of different coding languages. Python is very popular and has been used to make so many different things like YouTube, Flappy Bird, Netflix. NASA has even used Python to control spacecraft. In this video, we will learn how to code a Mad Libs game in Python. Here is where we will write our code, and here is where we will see what it can do. The first thing we'll need to learn is print. And when we say print, it doesn't mean print something out on paper, it just means to have the text show up on the screen. When we use a print statement, we always have parentheses, and then we will surround our text in quotes. To use the code, we can run it by clicking this button up here, where it says Run, and then Run Module. It may ask you to save your work. Just hit OK. It worked! You can also run the code by pressing F5. And to save time, you can also press Enter or Return instead of scrolling your mouse over to the OK button. You can write as many print statements as you like. Each print gets its own line. A lot of times when you're coding, you will want to take some notes about what you're doing. This is so important because you can come back to your code a week, a day, or even just an hour later and have a hard time remembering exactly what you were doing. When we take notes in our code, we use a hashtag so that the computer knows to ignore that line. These notes are called comments. So if we run our code right now, the computer will just ignore all the comments. But if we took out a hashtag and run our code, we get an error. So let's put that hashtag back. Someone we think about a lot while we're coding is the user. The user is the person playing your game or using your program. So far, we have only sent text to the user, but if we want to make interesting games and programs, we will need to make it interactive. Next thing we're going to learn is how to ask the user a question. To do this, we will use input. Let's ask the user for their name. Input looks a lot like print. When we run our code, it will print the question to the right and then wait for you to type in an answer. You can press Enter or Return to send it in. Some coders like to add a space after their question mark so that the user has some room. After the user gives us their name, we may want to use it in our code. To do this, we first need somewhere in the computer's memory to store the name. That is where variables come in. A variable is simply a name that represents a piece of your computer's memory. It allows us to save information in our computer brain. Let's use a variable to save the name that our user gives us. We can name our variable anything. X, Y, answer, zebra. But it is helpful if it is short and it hints at what it's storing. Our variable will save our user's name, so let's call it name. If we set our variable equal to the input question, it will save the user's answer. Let's print it out to see if it worked. worked! Notice how name was not in quotes, like when we said hello penguins. If we put the variable in quotes, it would just print the variable's label instead of what the variable is storing. Instead of Percy, we got name. Let's add a bit more to the print so that it feels like a proper greeting. We can add our variable to other text using a plus sign. Make sure you keep the variable outside of the quotes. And there we go. Now we're going to use variables, input, and print to make our Mad Libs game. Here's how our finished game will look. Alright, so first we have to enter an adjective. I'm gonna say slimy. Now a noun, a person, place, or thing, castle. Give me a verb. I'm gonna say hiccuped. And another adjective, fuzzy. The slimy penguin tripped on a castle and hiccuped into the fuzzy snowman. Okay, definitely a successful Mad Libs. Super weird. And now we are going to create our own. To start, I will plan out my sentence in a comment. So in our example sentence, we had the blank penguin, and we need an adjective in the blank. So I'm going to write that in all caps. But this is just to write down our plan. This is not going to have any effect on the code. The adjective penguin tripped on a noun and verbed into the adjective snowman. So now we need the user to give us two adjectives, a noun, and a verb. So we'll ask an input question for each. Make sure you have your text in quotes. We need to save the words that the user picks out into variables so that we can use them later. Since this variable is going to be holding an adjective, I'm going to call it ADJ for short. This one will be called noun, verb. I need to use two different variable names for my adjectives, so the second one doesn't erase the first one. So I'm going to call this adjective 2 and this one adjective 1. Let's run our code to check for any errors so far. Only our first question shows up. When we use input, the computer waits for the user to send in an answer before it moves on to the next line of code. So if I say slimy, then we get the next question. Now we can put our sentence and our variables together in a print. Make sure you keep your variables outside of the quotes. Remember to add a space inside the quotes before and after your variable. Otherwise, the adjective that they pick out will be squished against the and the penguin. Okay, now let's add the rest of our variables. Your sentence might end up being too long for your screen. That's okay, you can always just scroll back with the arrow keys. And we're done. Let's play our game. Okay, an adjective. It's too sleepy. A noun, house. A verb, snored. An adjective, hungry. The sleepy penguin tripped on a house and snored into the hungry snowman. Yay, it worked! Thanks for coding with me. Make sure you play your Mad Libs game with a friend, and I'll see you next time. Happy coding!